All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the How Can I Help My Child series. Internet came for us just before we came live. We're sorry we're starting a few minutes late. We had to switch device. I hope, please, if you're in the studio, you can see me. If you are on the stream, you can see me, you can hear me. I would like you to let me know because I am using a less powerful network right now, and I hope I am clear and you can hear and see me um, clearly. All right, so welcome to the How Can I Help My Child series. We do this every 8:30 a.m. in the morning because we want you to have your child at the back of your mind, not just as your child, but more like, how can I support this child? How can I make a difference in the life of this child? How can I be an advantage in the life of my child? And today we're looking at the topic, the benefits of for benefits of reading aloud. Yeah, benefits of reading aloud to your child and how this promotes their early development. And I have an amazing guest with me in the house today that will be sharing the stage with me and will be giving us deep insight as an educator, not just another educator, but one who is a promoter of premium learning, okay, in early years, okay, and beyond. So we have Mr. Emmanuel with us, and he's going to be joining us in a few minutes. Through learning, through the magic of strong storytelling, we can actually ignite the learning, the hunger for learning in our children. We can ignite their imagination, and we can lay a solid foundation for cognitive and emotional growth in our children. Now, we can do this, and when we do this, we're able to nurture children who are lifelong learners and children who are lovers of reading. We are going to be bringing Mr. Emmanuel right on stage right now so that he's going to join and share with us his insights on the subject. Good morning, sir. Let's see. I'm using a smaller
Good morning, ma.
device because our network challenge. Pardon me. So it's going to be a bit. Is the network better? Please let me know. Good morning, Mr. Manuel. It's good to have you here. Sorry, we had to keep you for a few
Thank
minutes.
you, ma.
How are
Good
you doing
morning.
today?
No problem, I understand. Very well, very well. And you? Happy holiday.
I'm fine, thank you. Let me see if I can increase the volume here. I didn't think I was going to be using my mobile phone because I would rather use the laptop, but because of the network issue, we had to jump in here instead of wasting more time trying to fix that. All right, you're welcome, sir. Let's get to the subjects for today. All right, so we started this series on Monday, and just to let parents understand, the need for just to make parents understand the need for reading as a culture in their home. Questions: the need for reading as a culture in their homes, because many times when you meet parents, there is this emphasis on the children, learning so that, and then reading so that they can do well in their schoolwork. So it's more like when parents come to you, she is not blending yet. She cannot spell, she cannot pronounce four-letter words. She's 3 years old. How come she cannot read properly yet? And I'm like, oh my goodness. So is this the focus really? Them reading those big books so that we can say, how parents will come to you and say, she's 4, she can read so well. All right, so we want to see, or we want to talk a little here today. Okay, it's a 30-minute show, so of course I know that all that you have inside you cannot unpack in this one session, but we want you to at least share with us a bit so that we can begin to learn and know better when it comes to this. What do you think that story, or what do you know, not thinking now, what do you know that storytelling and reading aloud, what is even reading aloud in the first place, and what do you think that storytelling does for a little child, especially between 0 and 5? What does it do for them? Can you hear me, sir? This network we will show you
Yeah, I can
today,
hear
you
you. I
can't
can hear you.
destroy
Network
us.
was glitching.
Can you hear me, sir? I'm the one that can't hear you.
So the question again.
Okay, I can hear you, but it's so faint.
Yeah, I can hear you now. I can hear you.
Okay,
Can you hear
sorry
me?
about that. Did you hear my
Okay.
question? Did you hear my
Yes,
question?
I. Can you just take it again?
Okay,
I
let me
didn't.
see.
Can you
But
hear
I
me?
don't know what it is that is making this so low, as in I can barely hear you. All right, so I was saying that usually, parents are
Okay.
always more concerned about their children being able to blend and read, read a passage, that kind of thing. Even when the children are still 3 and 4, parents begin to get worried. Now, I want you to share with us what you know that is more important at this stage. And I want you to throw some light into the place or the benefit of reading aloud. But you have to tell us first what it means to even read aloud to the child. So the benefits of storytelling and reading aloud to our young children. Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can. It's really faint, but I'm trying.
Okay. Maybe should I change to my mobile device? Well, I think the network is trying to play a fast one on me. Would that be okay?
I don't think it's at your end, though. I think it's me. I think it's my device. For some reason, it's not just loud.
Okay.
I've
Okay.
actually
So let me just show
maximized.
them.
Maybe I should use an earpiece too. Sorry, let me try and use an earpiece and see.
Okay.
All right, you can say something. Let me hear. Let me see if that's clearer.
Can you hear me now?
Wait, the device is not connected. Let me try. Okay, it's connected now. All right, go
So
ahead,
can you hear
sir.
me now?
I
Can you
can't
hear
hear
me
you
now?
from the device. I can hear you. It's just that it's go ahead. Just go ahead. If the audience can hear you clearly, that's it's okay. All right, let me come. It's okay. Let me
Yes.
connect here.
We
Sorry, let me see if I can
we
connect
need to
back.
be
I hear the
sure for
network is
benefit
better
for
now.
the
But go
benefit.
ahead. Just go ahead. Go come see.
Okay. So reading is one of the the core thing when you are dealing with children. So often, like you rightly pointed out, you see parents talking about, my son is 3, he cannot read. My daughter is 4, she cannot even blend. My son is 5, he cannot read a simple passage. So those are common theme on a daily basis if you work with parents and children. So, well, their concern is genuine. Their concern is genuine. But the one question they don't often ask is it the time? Are they ready? Are the necessary things in place? Are we doing what we need to do part time? So those are questions they need to ask. I think asking these questions will help them prepare their children and in the long run enable them to read when they are ready. So can you hear me now? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Toop, 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 toop.
Can you hear me now?
Toop, 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 toop.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you, ma.
Absolutely. Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. My network is back. And We are so
So how
sorry
is
if
the
you've
audio
joined
now?
us and you're catching the replay right now. Sorry, you know how it is. We still belong to this place, okay? And so we still have this as a challenge. One day we will get there where internet will not be a challenge. I'm so sorry, sir, for this experience. All right, go ahead. I'm listening. Thank you
No
so
problem, no
much.
problem. So can you hear me now?
Yes, please. I can. Loud and clear. Give me.
Okay, so I was saying that, like you rightly pointed out, if, when one is working with children, the question of reading is one you hear on a daily basis because reading happens to be one of the yardstick we use to define learning,
Hmm.
especially in the preschool settings, because sometimes you don't get to see what the child is learning immediately. So parents measure their child's learning based on writing numbers and reading. So once a child cannot write numbers or read, the conclusion is that my child is not learning. So these are things you get to hear on a daily basis. Now, the way they define learning is interesting. So they define learning by reading and writing, not knowing that learning goes beyond reading and writing. Now that will bring me back to the question you asked earlier. What are the benefits of stories and reading aloud? Now,
Mhm.
what is reading aloud? Reading aloud basically is just like we're talking now. But in reading, you are reading from a script, you are reading a book, you are reading pictures, you are reading body language. So, reading goes beyond reading a book. But for the sake of this webinar, we'll just leave it to reading a book. So, basically, reading aloud means reading from a script. Now that script can be a written story. So when you read aloud, you're not just monotonous like reading like a robot. You need to evince the character. So you're not just
Mm.
reading because you need to read. You are reading to bring the emotions, the characters, and portray the values that are contained in that book. So reading aloud goes beyond just reading what is the script. it it involves bringing the character, the values, and the emotion because there is something the story is about. And if you
Mm.
don't bring the character to life, then you are just reading a script without passing anything across to the child. Hello, can you hear me? Hello, Ma, can you hear me? Okay, so let me just go on. So, what are the benefits of reading stories and reading aloud to your child? Now, learning starts from birth. Now, why do I say learning starts from birth? Because if a child can see, can hear, can touch, and feel, it means that child is learning. Now, what the child is seeing, hearing, touching, and feeling, it translates into movement. Now, it is in the movement of the child you get to say precisely what the child is learning and how far the child has learned certain concepts, internalized ideas, and is able to carry them out. Now, when you are reading to your child is indirectly absorbing values, concepts, ideas, and knowledge. Now, when you're doing this thing, your child is internalizing these things, absorbing them, even from birth. Do not assume that because my child cannot talk, cannot say what he's doing, do not assume that your child is not learning. Now, like I said, so long as the child can hear, see, feel, and touch, it means the child is absorbing ideas, concepts, and knowledge. Now, the mistakes many of us make is that since he cannot talk, what's the point of reading for the child? But there's something we
Mm.
say the child has an absorbent mind, he has the capacity to absorb information. Now, where this comes for you now is that you have to be deliberate about the type of stories you read to your child because you are passing values. Now, at a point, this child cannot show what is absorbing, but take it that later you're going to see what you have passed on to your child. So the primary, the basic benefit, let me not use primary benefit of reading stories and reading aloud to your child is it helps them to acquire and develop language. Now, language is one of the primary need of a developing child because when the organs are fully developed, the child needs to communicate his feelings, his ideas, his needs. So, language is one of the basic needs of a growing child. So, when you read aloud to your child, when you read stories to your child is acquiring language. So you have to be deliberate about the kind of stories you read for your child and to your child. This is very important. So your child is acquiring language. Beyond acquiring language, you are building a foundation that will facilitate reading when your child is ready. Now,
Mm.
English language is quite complex, and you need to take note of this. Children need language. Now, in your environment, you might be Hausa, you might be Igbo, you might be Yoruba, but English happens to be our lingua franca. So you need to
Mhm.
start early. You need to start early. Like I said, so long as the child can hear, can see, can touch, and feel, your child is learning. Now, this is your window, so you need to maximize it. How do you
Mm.
maximize it? By reading story. So the more you expose the child to stories, reading aloud, your child is acquiring the language of his immediate environment. So there's a research about how children acquire language. Now you'll be shocked to see that from the research, they look at the families of professionals because they talk more, they have a wide variety of language and vocabulary. So as they converse among themselves, the child is acquiring new languages, new concepts, and new vocabularies. Now, when you compare to the family of the poor people in quote, we discover that communication is limited. Thereby, the
Mm.
language acquisition of the child is now limited because if the child hears few words, it's going to acquire few vocabularies. So reading stories afford you the opportunity to expose your child to a wide varieties of vocabularies and language registers. Now, this is very important. Now, the more you read, because often you'll be like, what do I tell my child? What do I do? What am I supposed to do? Stories give you the avenue to read and expose your child to a lot of vocabularies. Now, like I said, language is one of the basic needs of a child. So reading stories exposes the child to language and it helps the child to acquire language. Now, in the process, like I said, you are building the foundation. You are laying the building block for reading. Because when the child is ready to read, what is he going to read? So it is very important you bombard, let me use that language, bombard your child with stories. Stories are avenue for the child to acquire language. Now, reading aloud will enable the child to understand the nuances of language. Apart from that,
Mm.
how to communicate using the body and the feeling. Now, this is very important. So, reading aloud facilitates literacy, like I said, it lays the foundation for reading. Now, often when parents are complaining about child cannot read, the question I always ask them is that, so what have you done? Because by 3, when the child begins school, it is expected with class with zero language skills, then the teacher has a lot of work to do. That is why in the preschool setting, reading aloud and language and reading and stories are one of the key things we do on a daily basis because it affords us the opportunity to read from a script that contains the values we want to pass across to children. Now, another thing reading stories and reading aloud does to the child is it helps their cognitive development. Now, how
Mm.
does this facilitate cognitive development? When you read stories to children, especially when they are that age, they can talk. Now, they ask you questions. Oh, so what happened? Oh, what is this? Oh, what is that? How is this? Where did this happen? When did this?
All right, it looks like it's Mr. Emmanuel that has the network problem right now. I hope you can still see me and hear me. It'll do me well if you let me know that you can see me and join. I mean, and you can hear me. Please let me know in the comments. Okay, I think he's back. All right, I'm going to be putting him back on the screen. All right. Sorry about that. You went on for a second, for yeah, a few
Yes, my
seconds.
network had a network glitch. Network glitch. So as I was saying, cognitive development, it helps the children to think, to process their thoughts. So most importantly, asking WH questions: what, who, where, when, and how. It helps the children in their memory and recall, because when you ask the children what happened, where it happened, how it happened, now also memory development, they have to go back into their mind to retrieve what you have read to them. So furthermore, it also helps their comprehension skills. Now you agree with me that comprehension is one of the basic problems we are encountering as a society. People read something and give it a different meaning. Now, why do you think this is so? Their comprehension skill is very low. So you can see what reading to your child does. It builds your child comprehension skills, most especially when you begin to ask the WH questions: what, who, where, when, and how. Now, when you do this thing consistently with your child, you are helping your child to build his cognitive skills. Furthermore, his comprehension skills. Now, the next thing story reading helps your child is imagination and creativity. Now, if you observe carefully, when you read stories to children and for children, what they do is that they take on the character in the stories. Now, beyond that, they take on the feelings and the value. This is where you need to pay attention. You are not just reading stories, you are transmitting value. So they take on this thing. So when you see them playing, you see them carrying out this character. Oh, you see them doing this, you see them doing that. Based on the stories you've read for them, they try to enact the character. Now, in enacting this character, they are going to personalize the character and internalize the values. So, when you are reading stories to your children, you have to be deliberate about the kind of stories you read, because they are going to internalize the character and they are going to personalize these values, which will serve them throughout their journey in life. Now, the next thing is it helps to build the bond between you and your child. Many parents complain of, I don't have time. There's no time. But you need to create the time. We all have 24 hours. Now, if you understand, if you see the benefit of reading stories to your child, then you become deliberate about reading stories. Now, one of the things it does is that it creates bond and attachment. Now, I worked with a child recently. I observed that consistently this child kept asking me to read stories for her, read stories for her. Now I discovered that after doing that consistently, I noticed how close we became, and she's more comfortable telling me things. Now I can tell you, I was not sharing with the mother. Your daughter loves reading. When somebody reads stories to her, I will strongly suggest you do this, because it's going to create a bond and an attachment between you and your daughter. And in the process, she will share things with you that you'll be amazed that your child is going through. So create time. Sometimes it can be 5 minutes, it can be 10. Just create the time. Bedtime, very good. During the day, also very important. Like this holiday is an opportunity for you to create that bond by reading stories aloud to your children. You'll be amazed that once you start, children will always look forward to it. Now, the next one is, which is very important and a foundational building block, is stories and reading aloud helps children to develop concentration and attention span. Now, when you are reading stories for children, you see how their mind and their body is with you. Now, when this goes on for a long time, they are developing their muscles, they are developing their ability to pay attention, they are developing the ability to concentrate. Now, most importantly, when the story is of interest to them and you are able to evince the character and the emotions portrayed in the story, you will see how they will pay attention and their mind will be fixed on you until you are done with the story. Now, you will discover that even while you're reading, you'll be amazed that they are so involved in the story that you are shocked. So, story reading and reading aloud helps children to develop concentration and attention. Now, every teacher loves children that pay attention and concentrate, because when the child is paying attention and concentrate, you can take it that the child is learning and is absorbing the content. Now, the next benefit of reading stories and reading aloud is it exposes children to the world. It helps them to understand the world they are living in. Now, recently, during last session, we had some series of stories we're reading for children. So in that story, it has some words that you'll be amazed that adult were scared children can actually understand. Words like photosynthesis, binoculars, stethoscopes. Now, when the child went home and I was saying those words, the mom was amazed. The child can identify people in Asia, people in North America, people in South
Mhm.
America. Now, the child is able to do all this and more because we have been reading varieties of storybooks to them. Now, like I said, they absorb this language unconsciously. Now, when they are playing, you see them saying these things. You be like, what? Where did he learn this from? Where did he hear this from? So, reading stories to children exposes them, it gives them more knowledge and understanding of the world they are living in. Now, this is one thing you should take note
Mm.
of. Don't be afraid of saying the big, big words. The primary aim is not for them to read the words, it's for them to hear the words and also say the word. Now, when they have this
Mm.
vocabulary, you see that when they are ready to read, reading becomes easier for them because they know the word already. They can say these words. So, whatever the word is, so long as you can pronounce it, say it to them, read the words. So, the more you do these things, the more they acquire this language, and it helps them to understand the words and how things works in the world. Now, the next thing it does for children is that it helps to improve their listening skills. Now, you also agree with me that listening skills is one of the vital skills that many people are lacking in this day and age. Now, like the saying
Exactly.
goes, you can't give what you don't have. So, these children in our care, it is our responsibility to help them develop listening skills. If a child can sit down and listen to you read stories or tell stories for 5, 10 minutes, you are building the capacity to listen without interrupting. You are building the capacity to pay attention and also concentrate. So, reading stories help your child to listen. Now, listening goes beyond just looking at you. As they are listening, they are also processing what you are telling them. So, reading stories aloud and telling stories helps children to develop listening skills. Now, the next one is social emotional development. Now, I was talking about earlier about children trying to enact the characters in stories. Now, what they do now is that you see them trying to understand perspective. So the child tries to take the role of the main character, then another child tries to take the role of another character in the story. So, what do you think is happening here? They are trying to put themselves in place of the character, thereby having a feeling of what the character felt in the story. Now, this helps them to develop empathy, compassion. So, when children take on character, they internalize the values and the feelings of the character, and it helps them to understand perspective and what others are feeling in the process. So the last one for this webinar, okay, I have two more points I need to raise. The next one is now when you are reading for your children, you are laying the foundation for them to love reading. Now, I've seen adults who tell you, reading is not my hobby. Yes. Now, this is because the foundation wasn't, there was no foundation. They had adults or parents who don't like reading also. So for them to read is like a major work or a major task for them. So they avoid it. So doing this early for your child, you are laying a foundation. Like the saying goes, readers are leaders. Those who are leading the world today are people who are reading on a daily basis. And the world, for you to catch up with the world, you need to immerse yourself in reading. So you can start this early by reading for your children. By modeling this to your children, you are sowing seeds that will serve them when they become adult and when they go into the world. Now, the last point for today is stories helps children to relax and to calm down. Now, if you are doing this, you will see that this is true, especially when you read to your child before your child goes to bed. Even as adults, you will see that story reading is therapeutic. You discover that you just carry a book and you're reading. The next thing is you are sleeping, you are dozing off already. So story has a way of calming the nerves, thereby facilitating relaxation and sleep. So the more you read for your child, I've seen a child that is very hyperactive, but when it comes to story reading or reading aloud, you discover that this child is calm, and the next minute the child is either dozing off or is so engaged with the story. So when you read stories for your children, help them to relax. It helps them to calm. Now, there's a trick I always use for children. When you just say story, they know that something is in the offing. So when you create a pattern or a structure for your child, they look forward to it and they are always anticipating, oh, what's the next story? Oh, what's it going to be about? Oh, how is it going to end? So storytelling and reading aloud has this and more benefit for your child. Now, lastly, before I round up, let me give you tips for choosing books that you can read for your children, for your child. One of them is look out for books that have simple language. You can start from there, like I said, then you can go on to more complex and advanced vocabularies. So start with one that have simple language, then, like I always recommend, you can do it this way. Start with books that have more pictures and less words. Then you can now go on to reading books that have more words and less picture. Now, when you do this, you are building the foundation for phonemic awareness. Phonemic awareness is one of the building blocks that prepare children for reading. So you can now also consider the length of the book. When you bring a bulky book for your child for the first time that you want to start reading for your child will be scared. So look at the length and size of the book. It will encourage them to stay. Now, you also need to consider your child's attention span. You are trying to build a habit, you're trying to help the child develop a skill. So you need to start from simple, like we say, to complex. So start with small books. As the child concentration and attention span continue to build and increase, you can now move on to bigger books. The next one is look for books that have interactive elements. Interactive elements in the sense that you see some books have some 3D images, your child can feel and touch them. So also when they are flipping them, it has this feel. So look out for books that have interactive element, then look for themes that are relatable. For example, is summer, is winter, is spring, is Christmas, is Easter. So look for stories that have relatable theme so that when you are reading it to them, they are more interested and it also captured their interest. Then look out for books that have rhymes and reading. I mentioned phonemic awareness. Now, when you expose children to books that have rhymes and reading, you are building their skills to differentiate sounds. Now, this is very important and is a building block for them when they are ready to start reading. Now, the next one is look for variety. Don't just sit on one title. Look for different storybooks. Look for different varieties of storybooks because the more you read for them, they keep. There are times they can even suggest books you can get for them. Oh, what about stories about animals, stories about seas? So look for varieties and also involve them. Then the last one is that look for stories that have positive images. Like I said, you are not just reading stories for your child, you are also communicating values, you are communicating ideas, and you are also transmitting concept and
All right. I
principle.
don't
So
know if
look,
it's me or if it's Mr. Emmanuel. I can't.
you don't mean Can you hear me now? Okay, so I think our host is having a she's having issues with our network. So let me just go on through the tips. So the first one I said is look out for stories that have simple language. The next one is stories that have engaging illustrations. So you can start with storybooks that have more pictures and less words. Then you move on to more advanced storybooks that have more words and less pictures. Then the next one is that you need to consider the length of the book. So start with smaller books, then you can go on to more advanced books. Then look out for stories that have interactive elements. Then look out for relatable theme. Like I said earlier, Christmas stories, Easter stories, summer stories, Hamilton stories, dry season stories, farming stories, book on animals, and so on and so forth. So look out for books also that have positive images. Now, you need to also understand that when you're reading stories to your child, you are not just reading a script, you are transmitting knowledge and you are transmitting values. So look out for the kind of values you want to transmit to your child. Then look out for the appropriate books that will help to communicate these values. Then the next one I said is rhymes and rhythm. Rhymes and rhythms help children to develop their phonemic awareness. Now, this is also very important when a child is ready to read. These are the things that facilitate reading. Then, lastly, I talk about varieties of book. Don't just sit on one type of book. Look for different types of book because, like we said, you are building something. So, get different types of stories and read for your child. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Ma. Seems like you're having network issues.
This networking for me today, I don't know what it is. And usually the network is good at this time. I have hardly ever had issues at this time, but it's okay. At least they were listening to you and they could hear you. That's the most important part. Thank you so much, sir. Right, I like the way you just
Thank you.
flowed with it to the end. You saved me there because ordinarily I would ask questions back and forth, and with this network that's like this, it would have been, a lot of chaos, but you did justice there. Thank you so much. You nailed it, you finished
Thank,
it, you scattered it, and all of that. So the truth about it
thank you, Ma.
is, as a reading to children is this and much more, just as he has said. So you know something, Mr. Emmanuel,
Yeah.
3 years ago we started a program, right? And the
Okay.
inspiration for starting that program was my son. So my son has always loved to read from, so while he was growing up, he would read from encyclopedias, right? But he wouldn't
Wow.
read storybooks, right? So he won't read a
Okay.
fiction story, but he would just bury as his energy and everything in trying to figure out something in the encyclopedia or a book about fish, animals, and things like that. So he was more drawn to authentic things that were like, I don't know, it was things that he could touch, he could feel. I don't know what it was, but he was drawn to like real science related kind of things. So that's why when he
Yeah.
started a science, he started a YouTube channel at 8. We did it for a few
Oh,
years
wow.
before we moved
Wow.
on to, we didn't want to stress and drag him into anything. But at the time, he said, I
Mm,
love science, and then he wanted to teach science. But I think that
wow.
was the
Wow.
foundation because he was so drawn to encyclopedia. So he had deep knowledge in that area. And he wouldn't pick a
Mm,
single storybook. So I read
yeah.
storybooks, as in I read aloud to him from when, if I bought his first set of books before I gave birth to him. So I started
Wow.
reading stories to him at that time. And so he had a bedtime
Mm,
story every day. He had stories when I came back from work. I would talk and gist and talk. Then I would read the Bible like I was reading for two, and then I would read him a bedtime
wow.
story at the end of the day.
Wow.
So this is what we did,
Wow.
for the longest time. And then when he was 6, going on 7, I saw a reading challenge, to read books during the summer. And
I got him and asked him if he wanted to be. He dragged and dragged, like, okay, which kind book wahala is this one, and all of that. And he agreed and he jumped in. He read in that challenge. By the time we had gone like 6 days into the challenge, it wasn't about me anymore. It wasn't about me anymore. All I did was I made the resources available. By the sixth day, I
Mm.
wasn't reading aloud anymore. It was more like he grabs the book, and then by the end of that challenge, that was it. That was all we needed for him to move from just his encyclopedia and specific subjects
Wow.
and topics to reading
Wow.
all kinds of book. Now, as in now, this morning I woke up at 4 a.m. There was just too much noise coming from his end. And then I came to his room. I'm like, okay, why are you not sleeping? He just finished junior YEC and he's been writing a book that, I said
Wow.
to him, you
Wow.
want to publish that you can publish at
Mm.
any point. No pressure, focus on the things that you want. And then he was writing. I'm like, why are you up at 4? It's like he just got inspiration. He wants to just put it in. I'm like, what's going on
Mm.
here? But what I'm saying
Wow.
is,
Wow.
at this juncture, we don't
Wow.
have to struggle to read. And you know how easily he was able to move that love for reading right into his
Yeah.
academic. It was just easy to
Yes.
move it there. So I always say to people, see, we are on this journey. Oh, we have not gotten anywhere yet. We are still in it. We're still a work in progress. But you see, when it comes to studying and when it comes to his schoolwork, we have locked that one in. We've locked it
Mm.
in. There's no jumping around. There's no, I don't know what he does. He's in JSS3. I don't know what he does in school. I don't know how he goes
Wow.
about it. I don't know nothing. But he was in school valedictorian this year after reading,
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
after reading
Wow.
Cambridge and then junior YEC. So what I'm saying
Wow.
is, you see that thing that we're chasing around, jumping and jumping up and down. If we can relax now that our children are young and get these
Yeah.
foundational skills in place, you don't need anything more than listening or watching this video. I think Mr. Emmanuel nailed it like completely. If you didn't know, you know how you meet parents sometimes, you be like, oh, buy books for your children because I write books for children. Oh, this book,
Okay.
no, they don't like to read. They don't like it. I just waste money. They don't like to read. And in my heart, I'm like, if I talk now, they will say it's because she writes books. If I talk now, they will
Yeah.
say it's because she can't get to read their book. But no, reading is not a hobby. It's not. I told them yesterday in this on the show, I said, you know how you say one of my child's hobby is reading. I don't want to be hearing it because you don't say one of my child's hobby is going to school. You don't say that. It's not a hobby. Neither do you say
It
one
is
of
not.
my children's hobby is going to church or his hobby is
Uh,
loving God. It's not a hobby, it's a lifestyle.
yeah.
It is who you are.
Absolutely.
This is how we need
Yes.
to start
Yes.
looking at our children reading and loving book. It is not an option. It is not a hobby. It is not a side gig. It is life. It is. Do you understand? It is everything. If we didn't think it was, then by just listening to Mr. Emmanuel today, you should know that it is. It is everything. It is building social skills. It is building cognitive ability. It is building the bond between you. It is building language. It is building. So, what is it again that is left that reading will not help you develop in your child? So, thank you so much, sir, for being here. We dragged you this early in the
No
morning.
problem. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for allowing us to harass you. You know, thank
Thank
you for everyone who
you.
has joined. So we have the reading challenge we started 3 years ago. We're doing 3.0 this year. For 30 days, we're going to have your children engaged in reading. And what we've done is we've been able to put exciting activities to create motivation for the children. So we would have Tales by Moonlight, we will have grandma story time, we would have puppet shows, we will have read aloud, we will have nature walk, we will have we would it's a lot of fun when we do this reading. It's with a lot of drama, a lot of dress ups, and we would want you to replicate this in your home. See, at the end of these 30 days, you will bond. Your child, we have moved children from zero readers to read lovers of books through this challenge.
Wow.
This is
Wow.
the third year, and
Wow.
we are not capping. So if you have a child from zero, we said from 0 to 13, you need to be in this challenge. 0 to 13, you need to be in this challenge. It will be worth your while, and you don't have to break a bank, and neither do you have to give more than 30 minutes or thereabouts in a day for this challenge. So if you want to be a part of the challenge, we have the information on the screen. You can screen grab it or reach out to us or check the link after this show in the comments, and you will see. Just click and join the wait list. Right in that wait list, we have 3 other amazing resources that you will get for free, and all of this for 3,500 naira. 30 days, Mr. Emmanuel. These people are going to be paying me
Wow.
150
Wow.
naira per
Wow.
day. Do
That
this
day.
with
Wow.
me.
That's very cheap. Extremely cheap. Extremely cheap.
Not even cheap, oh, it is giveaway. We want children to read.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
our
Wow.
problem. But we
Wow.
know we need to commit to this. So that's
Wow.
why there is the price to
Yeah.
it. So thank you
Mm.
so much, everyone, for being here. We know we stretched this show today, but it is worth every second. So go and tag your friends and tag your brothers and sisters so that they can watch and understand. If you're running this journey together and you're not doing it with your tribe, it's going to be hectic, because you will be saying one thing, your children will be hearing 1,000 things. So the more of the people in your tribe, grandma, their aunties, their uncles, their friends, their cousins, the more of them that are on this journey like you are, the more, the easier your journey or your process is going to be, with your children. Miss Imana, do you have any last word for us? You've said plenty already, but let's enjoy one more.
Yeah, I think it's quite impressive what you are doing, and I would strongly recommend the hop on this. The 30 days is going to be a huge turnaround for anyone that is involved in this. I think it's a big one. It's a big one. Congratulations, ma. Please, if you can share more information with me, I'm going to share it with my
Thank you.
followers on Facebook. Let's see how far we go with this. Please keep reading for your child.
Thank you, sir.
Keep doing this. Build the muscles, build a habit, and it's going to serve us as a family and as a nation in the long run. Thank you very much, man, for having me. I really appreciate this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, everyone. Sorry about all the network glitches, but hey, go and catch a replay and you will absorb everything. I'm going to catch a replay because I missed some of what Mr. Emmanuel was saying. There's so much in this session. Please, there is so, so much in it. Thank you so much, sir. We celebrate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone. Have a lovely weekend. And we'll see you again on Monday when we come back on the show at 8:30 a.m. We do this Monday to Friday. Thank you very much and have a fantastic weekend and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.